Hi, my name's Vivi, and I am one of the many artists who have decided to give the artist's way a try. It's Monday, which marks week 2 for me in this book. I haven't yet read anything about week 2 in this book or done the tasks. I'm just, this is the start of the week. But besides doing the artist's way, this is kind of a double feature because I have decided that I want my sketchbook to be done, and it has 15 spreads, if I'm counting correctly, left in it. And, the year still has more than 15 days remaining, so I thought I could do a spread every day to finish my sketchbook by the end of the year. So I will take you with me on the journey of daily sketchbook spreads, and maybe I'll talk a bit about whatever is in this, if to me it seems worth talking about. Last week was a bit weird. I didn't really feel like I had anything to share about it. If you're curious about this, it's basically a 12-week course to respark your creativity. Every week you read a chapter of this book, you get some tasks that you can complete or not complete, and while you progress through this book, you're also supposed to do daily morning pages, is what it's called. It's kind of a 3-page brain dump every morning, and then you also take yourself on weekly artist dates, which are just little dates for you and yourself to go on, so you could rekindle with your inner artist, just doing some fun things for yourself by yourself. And yeah, that's it. Whatever. My god. Okay, so let's get into my first sketchbook spread of the week on Monday. To be very honest about the Artist's Way week 2, doing the morning pages has become significantly harder, and I don't know whether that is because I write so small. I already, in order for me to do them at all, I already reduced the amount to 2 pages instead of 3. Maybe I'm just too caught up on the exact amount, as I really don't think that the point of morning pages is to write exactly 3, but I can't figure out what rule to set where it's still effective, but not, me being lazy and just letting myself off with an easier task just because I don't want to do it. It's a hard balance to hit. Unfortunately, during my morning pages, I find myself pausing to think about things that I could write about, which does not feel like the point of doing a brain dump, and it's specifically mentioned that you're supposed to do a non-stop train of thought journal entry, and that very much isn't happening. Now, besides that, I'm very sure that I'm too caught up in the details of the exact rules for morning pages. I also can't figure out whether what's stopping me from filling pages is that I actually don't have anything to say, or that it's that I stop myself from saying things that go too deep, that I basically don't let myself reflect on things because either I feel I don't have the time in the morning, or maybe because I don't want to get into it, or because I don't want to open too big of a topic. Somehow, I feel like I'm supposed to dig deep in my morning pages, but then again, with my previous journaling habits, I've always gone into deeper self-reflection randomly, when it occurred to me, when something happened and I realized a pattern in my behavior or my thoughts or anything, and then I reflected on that. I had a prompt to reflect on, and in morning pages that can happen, but I guess you can't force deeper reflection. I guess morning pages are supposed to give you a space to be able to prompt deeper reflection, but I feel like they don't do that for me, or, all I'm realizing through making this voiceover is how much I overthink. But then again, where's the line between overthinking and reflecting? I'm very in my head. Basically, I feel like most of my morning pages are spent worrying about how the fuck I'm gonna fill them. Ideally, doing that for days straight will get you into writing something else. I will push through, but I feel like maybe morning pages just are not for me. Maybe journaling is more of a thing for me in the evenings when I can take time to sit down and reflect instead of in the morning when I feel like I have to get my tasks going and stuff. I mean, like a little bit of brain dump in the morning, like a really quick one, and then like get into the day seems more of my style than actually having to force myself to sit down for up to half an hour usually, and like it feels like it takes a huge chunk of my morning, which is my most productive time. It also just doesn't take into account living with someone else and having a routine that doesn't solely involve yourself. For me, like, I mean, let's just say you're living with a partner and you both work, then maybe your mornings are spent alone. But then again, like on the weekends, you will probably have breakfast with your partner. And if you are not the one in the relationship that wakes up earlier than the other one, then how are you gonna do half an hour of morning pages before breakfast that you want to be having with your partner, especially if they've already been up for an hour just waiting for you to also get up? Theoretically, there are two solutions to this problem, and that is either prioritizing yourself higher, although that is a pretty extreme measure when, you know, you're living in a partnership, and two, set an alarm earlier than your partner. The issue with me is that there is no way for me to wake up by an alarm that my partner will not also wake up to. I am a pretty heavy sleeper. My partner, however, is not. So if I set an alarm for myself, they will not fall back asleep. What I will be trying, although it doesn't really solve all of my problems with the morning pages on weekends specifically, I think it's pretty solid advice for everyone who struggles with the same problem that I do, which is scrolling on my phone in the morning. I will be trying to take my journal to bed with me, so the first thing I do in the morning is do my morning pages in bed instead of stay in bed and scroll for 20 minutes and then also have to do my morning pages. It isn't worth getting caught up on 2 days of the week where you can't stick to your routine, because sticking to your routine 5 days of the week is much better than sticking to your routine none of the days of the week. So, you know, just be okay with falling off for 2 days, or, you know, doing your morning pages after breakfast with your partner. As you might imagine, doing a whole sketchbook spread a day gets quite exhausting, and then filming it for social media too is just such a hassle that this day I didn't feel like using the brain cells to monitor my camera and like think about what shots I was getting, so I just set up a time lapse and let it roll while I was watching Sabrina Carpenter's holiday special. And to be even more whiny, making the sketchbook pages look good to, like, you know, post on the internet is a pressure that I don't appreciate, but I tried to, you know, do a colored illustration on the right, and then I gave myself the freedom of doing a very simple marker portrait on the left to just be done with it quickly. Never thought I'd go to hate, doing things with grace. Okay, so I have to admit that week 2 was a pretty big fail for me. I mean, who would have thought that tasking myself with completing a sketchbook spread a day, filming it, and doing the artist's way, and filming that, all while my partner is currently on vacation and, you know, doesn't have to work, so we have more time to spend together and have breakfast together, would kind of lead to me being overwhelmed or not being able to follow through. Week 2, or chapter 2 of The Artist's Way, is called Recovering a Sense of Identity, and just like with the first chapter, I couldn't really relate too much to what Julia was writing about, so it felt kind of pointless. I do really enjoy some of the exercises that are in this book. In the first and second week, for example, you were supposed to imagine alternative lives for yourself. So basically what occupation you would have been having mainly. Like would you've been a painter, a guitarist, a scuba diver, or a pilot. But besides that, like, to me, even if I, don't relate to a lot in the text, there are still some paragraphs that I find inspiring or helpful, or, like, the artist's way, to me, is more so worth it for the commitment I'm making. My own commitment is much more important than the actual content of this book. So it doesn't really matter but where I failed in week 2 very much is that I read the chapter on Wednesday instead of on Sunday or Monday at the start of the week like I should have, or at least I should have read the exercises, because one exercise, for example, is to read affirmations that are in the book every morning, and obviously I didn't do that. Also, besides that I didn't do the reading until Thursday, I also didn't do my morning pages on Wednesday. I think because of the scheduling issue that I've described about, like, having breakfast and then, not moving on to sit at my desk and do my morning pages, that is just a very odd routine that I can't really get along with. Then there's one more reason why this week completely flopped, because just falling off one day isn't too bad. And then doing the reading on Thursday still leaves me with 4 more days to actually do the exercises and reflect. But what also threw me off was that I got a migraine on Friday. And I will spare you the footage that I have of me getting an aura and being very distressed. But it really threw off my day a lot, and even the day after, because I got that migraine after doing a bunch of household chores at like 3 p.m. I did take a migraine medication that I got prescribed very recently, but I took it too early, and so the migraine persisted, and I just had to lay in bed and do nothing. And then the next day I was not feeling great, so I just completely lost track. About Sunday, I don't know. I think I kind of dropped it at that point. The one aspect in which I did not fail this week was just that I kept up with my artist date. It's very simple, but in the end, artist dates aren't supposed to be fancy or expensive. They're just supposed to be you taking time for yourself and your inner artist child. And so on Friday, when my migraine kind of faded in the evening, I made myself some soup. I danced around the kitchen and turned on the TV and watched some Gossip Girl cozied up on the couch. And to me, that counts as an artist date. I had a great time. I was vibing to music, dancing around, eating my little soup, and I don't know, it felt great. It was me time. I think that clarifies as an artist date. Honestly, I think taking like a very elaborate, fancy bath with some music or a series would also count as an artist date. To me, that would count. After that hell of a failure of a week, I tried to get back into week 3, but the holidays were just around the corner, and for the holidays I once again drove by my parents and stayed there for a couple of days, and I was very set on continuing my challenges while I was at my parents', but I ultimately decided to just drop them for the week and continue when I got back and the whole holiday stress was over, since it made way more sense to delay it by 1 or 2 more weeks and then to actually be able to commit fully than to push through and just not really be taking in the experience. So that's it for week 2. I will see you again in week 3, and I hope you've all had a great start to the new year.